So, hello and welcome to our breathing space mindfulness community practice for Sunday, the 25th of May. And I'll just drop a little bit in at the beginning of this video because anyone who sees us on Zoom, or sorry, on YouTube might wonder what this is all about. As our living mindfulness community, um, everybody who kind of comes into this community has been through some sort of MBSR or basic training in mindfulness, or perhaps even gone through um, a mindfulness course with me through As Our Living Mindfulness. And we have this little Zoom every Sunday free for everybody to join, an hour and a half just to connect with our mindfulness practice and also to connect as a community and just be here for each other and be present for each other. Um, so if you're watching this on YouTube and you're wondering what breathing space is, that's it. And somewhere in the comments under the video, you will find a link to As Our Living Mindfulness if you're interested in learning more. So right now we're working on a series of practices going through this book, Falling Awake by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And today is all about Soundscape. So I'm going to integrate some readings from this book into our practice. And the invitation, as always, is you can follow my guidance or you can just sit in your own mindfulness practice. Let my words kind of drift over you. You could sit in awareness of body, breath, whatever you like. Or if you want, you can give it a go and follow the guidance and just see what happens. Yeah. Just be open to being surprised. So let's begin, first of all, by finding a posture. Finding a posture that invites a sense of being alert and awake, but also invites a sense of being relaxed. As we come into practice, we let go of the doing, the busy, and tune into this sense of arriving into a space where you have nothing to do, nowhere to go, simply rest in awareness. So as you're finding your posture, maybe lying down today or sitting up, maybe organizing your cushions or blankets, using this as an opportunity to drop into awareness of movement, of body. Be also awareness of the energy that you have today. Awareness of anything going through the mind, the emotions. And whatever's present, just an invitation for everything to sit down with you, your energy, your busy mind, your emotions. Just invite them all to come and lie down or sit down with you. We can all practice together. So we're not pushing anything away or trying to shut anything down, but maybe by just finding all your points of contact, we begin to get a sense of stillness and being grounded at the center of our practice. If you're sitting, maybe noticing how the feet are in contact with floor. If you're lying, maybe feet are in contact with bed or cushion. From there, whether sitting or lying, checking in with the legs. Is there any contact there? Maybe the legs are touching each other, or in contact with chair or mattress. Perhaps around the pelvis. Maybe the back or the shoulders. They might be supporting your weight, or they might be supporting themselves through the spine. Perhaps even checking in with the hands and the arms. They might be resting by your side. They might be in contact with the bed or the chair. Maybe your hands are, clasped in your lap or lying on your thighs. And we might notice even some more subtle points of contact, maybe contact between lips or eyelids. Maybe contact between clothing and skin. So we have all these different places that we can return to at any time in our practice today. They're places that allow us to return to a sense of being grounded and centered. It's a foundation and a base to our practice. And at the center of it all, we have the rhythm of our breathing. So if you're in the mood for this today, why not tune in to the movement of breathing wherever you feel it in your body today. And this is a reminder that there's really no particular state of being that we're trying to achieve here. If anything, the opposite, we're just dropping into awareness, curious to meet the body and the breathing just as it is right now. Kind of a willingness to be surprised by what we find. Sometimes we feel the breath more in the movement of belly, sometimes in chest, sometimes through the mouth and the nose. And sometimes even through the shoulders or the back. So just tuning into the body breathing, noticing where that movement of in-breath and out-breath is felt. And noticing what happens as we drop into practice, as we focus our attention on the movement of breath. Perhaps we become more aware of energy in the body, or activity in the mind. So if we like, we can maybe have a foreground attention on the breath, and then this kind of peripheral background awareness of the emotionscape or mindscape, or the wider body landscape around the breathing. And then in a way that works for you, seeing if we can drop underneath the thinking, underneath the world of words, just into the place of sensation, movement, a place where we're tuning into the language of the body without words. Just that sense of everything that moves with the inflation of the in-breath, everything that releases with the out-breath. As you begin to tune into body more around the breathing, we might come across the body telling us that the posture's just a little bit off. So if you need to make any little adjustments to shoulders or back or legs, just tuning in to those messages from the body and making whatever adjustments will support your practice. And for now, if we find that we're drifting off into the content of thought or being pulled away by some other distraction, that the periphery has become the focus, we maybe just be, first of all, just say, well done for noticing. Here's thinking, or here's distraction. Well done for being aware, for coming into awareness. And then you have the choice to let that go and to refocus attention back onto the breathing, the next in-breath and the next out-breath. And of course, the mind will wander, because when we come into this place of nothing to do, the mind goes, ooh, here's a chance just to think about everything. So well done for noticing that. It's a perfectly normal thing for the mind to do. But with our mindfulness, we can be aware of that. Choose to refocus back to the physical sensations of in-breath and out-breath. And then, if you want, let's move on to the next part of our practice. If you want to just stay resting in the body and the body breathing and use that as your practice, then just continue that under my words. But if you're open to exploring mindfulness of sounds and soundscape today, let's see if we can just open our peripheral awareness now to the sounds in the room around the body breathing. It doesn't really matter what you hear. There's nothing right or wrong. Sometimes we have an emotional reaction to sounds. We like some sounds, we don't like others. But if we can just be open to all the sounds, because they're here, they're part of the now, they're part of this moment. And for a while, just sitting, being open to sound, we begin to maybe discern that some sounds are quite loud, others are very, very soft and subtle. There's a whole soundscape, like a like a landscape that's full of contours and colors and shapes. The same is true of sound. There's like layers of different sounds in the foreground, in the background. Sounds that last a long time, and others that just come and go. Maybe even the sound of your own breathing or heartbeat. Maybe the sound of the tongue in the mouth, teeth or saliva, swallowing. And if you wish, you can just rest now in body, in breath and sound. Just let my words just be one of those sounds that passes through the space that you're in. I'm going to begin reading from Jon Kabat-Zinn's chapter, Soundscape. And the invitation is just to allow the words to float into awareness, not thinking about them too much, just let them drop into body, into mind, and notice how they land in your practice. So Jon Kabat-Zinn begins his chapter by describing a soundscape that he is witnessing. And he says, it's 6:42 a.m. in late June. Through open windows, I am bathing in the sounds of birds I do not know, trills and whistles, warbles and clicks, calls and responses, short and long, some soon recognized in repeats, and others not so easily distinguished again. All modulated, syncopated, melodiously and chaotically spilling into the air, filling the world with song, undersong, oversong, within song, after song. It goes on in a clamour, moment by moment, ever new, ever exuberant, a cornucopia of sound spilling out everywhere. So dropping into your own practice, what's your soundscape right now? What happens when you open awareness to the cornucopia of sound that might be spilling around you right now? And just in case you're sitting there listening to sound and going, oh, he gets birdsong, I get this. His next paragraph says, there is also the not too distant and unmistakably growing hum of traffic on a not insignificant artery flowing intently deep into the body of the metropolis toward the heart of the city from the northwestern periphery, and pouring out in the other direction under similar pressure. The occasional roar of a semi accelerating is discernible, but for the most part, the impatient tire whirs and incessant engine purrs merge into one sound stream, announcing that the world of human purpose and industry is waking from its slumbers along with the birds. Delicious soundscape, punctuated at times by the fluttering of leaves on the gigantic Norway maple behind me, so close to the house, and by sighing from the boughs of the hemlocks in front of me, caressed by intermittent gusts of gentle wind, all coupled with just now the conversational voices of dog walkers passing by in the unpaved street under those hemlocks. Now a siren sound is contributed, distinct, brief, not repeated, and now and again a bang from something heavy being dropped off a truck on the farm below the hill. There are also beeps from something big backing up somewhere. This soundscape is always present. It is always the same and always different as the minutes and hours flit by. And always, in each moment, there are the birds' songs and occasional screeches. So a whole variety of sounds that might be present. So just a few minutes in silence to reconnect to whatever's present in your soundscape today. And whatever's going on in your life right now, whatever's going on in the world right now, you have nothing to do. You can let go of all of that and just focus on the sounds, the breathing, the body. Jon Kabat-Zinn continues with his chapter and he says, I cease thinking any thoughts about sources and I give myself over to hearing. It's very much a bathing in sound, a sensuous luxuriating in pure sound and the spaces between them, in layer upon layer of sounds. Now they are simply what they are, no longer identified, no longer listened for in a straining, reaching sort of way. I simply sit here, moment by moment, receiving whatever is arising in the soundscape, not even inviting it to come to my ears, since it's always coming anyway, if mostly not really heard or known because the mind is elsewhere or preoccupied with something, which might include thinking about the origins of the sounds I'm hearing, or having opinions instead of just hearing. In this giving myself over to the hearing, pure and simple, in these moments there is only the hearing. The soundscape is everything. It's no longer in the world, it is the world. Or maybe there is no world, and no me listening, and no sounds out there. There is only sound, and the spaces between sounds. There is only the hearing in this all of a sudden timeless moment of now, even as it flows into the next timeless moment of now. And in the hearing, there is also the immediate knowing of sound as it's heard, in its arising, its brief or sustained lingering, and in its passing away. So let's see if we can just let go of words and labels, drop to a place where we just notice the flow of sound as sound, or the silence between sound. Later in the chapter, he says, "Our dog knows that the soundscape includes what is not heard every bit as much as what is. If she hears the screen door open and close, but does not hear it slam shut and click, she knows she can escape the house. She just knows." This is merely an example of how not hearing in the soundscape is full of significant information. If we are tuned in enough to detect the absence of sound and changes in patterns of sound and silence. So as we're sitting listening to sound, somewhere in the back of the mind, there is a processing going on. Every sound has a meaning, a significance, because we cannot stop the mind working, thinking, processing. But as we sit with sound, can we be aware of the working of the mind as just simply the mind doing what the mind does? It hears a sound and then tries to give it meaning or purpose or significance. It tries to fill in the gaps, to tell a story. And if we notice that happening, can we just acknowledge where the mind goes? A kind of curious observation before we drop back to just being with the breath and being with the sound. So, of course, we're hearing sound all the time, even if we're not aware of it. The ears are taking in sound. And even if we're not aware of it, the mind is thinking about those sounds and drawing conclusions. There might even be an emotional response in the body. So while we're sitting in practice, we have this luxury of being able to notice what happens when we are aware of sound, when we're aware of the reaction in body and mind to those sounds, and this luxurious space of just observing that flow from one moment to another. So Jon Kabat-Zinn finishes his chapter with a reference to, he says, there's a sound like a garbage truck outside as I sit here. It's not garbage day. Perhaps it's a street sweeper, says my mind, seeking some way to identify it. But it's not going away. Maybe they're drilling. It sounds like a truck going up a steep incline forever and not getting nearer or further away. Perhaps they're doing some work up the street. I can sit here and think endless thoughts about what it is and where it's coming from and how much I wish it weren't here. Why is it happening so early in the morning? Maybe I should get up and investigate and see where it's coming from. What is making that noise? To what end, though? Right now, I'm sitting here. I can choose to be disturbed or not. But that choice seems difficult and excuse me, and remote, and an exercise of willpower. a way of resisting what is already so, already here. This sound. I watch the disturbance and non-disturbance oscillate back and forth. Behind this play of my mind is pure sound. Hearing the sound and not knowing what it is are both types of knowing. In this moment, can I simply rest in that knowing? The knowing that doesn't know and that doesn't need to know, and is content because these sounds are already here in this moment. Things are already just like this, right now. Can they be accepted as they are? Because anything else is going to lead to disliking or frustration or disturbance or distraction. The mind secretes a thought. Perhaps I could accept it better if I knew what it was and who was making it and how long it was likely to go on. Awareness also knows that thought, as it emerges, it sees the thinking mind groping and grasping and desperate now for a kind of explanation, a reassurance, a coordinated system within which acceptance might reside, having managed to turn what were just sounds into noise, a magical, if unnecessary, alchemy. Awareness also sees these thoughts, the annoyance, the struggling, and the grasping as extra and equally unnecessary. They are impediments to tranquility, impediments ironically far greater than the sound itself. There is tranquility in the hearing and the knowing underneath the sound. I let go into it. The sound stops momentarily and then resumes. No hindrance arises. All of a sudden, the mind experiences a spasm of discomfort. It insists on finding out. Somehow, awareness and my larger purpose evaporate. The spasm of desiring to identify the source gets the body up to look out the window. A big truck is going by. It is a noise, but not the noise. What has getting up and looking done for me? Nothing. I resume sitting and settle into hearing. The urge to find out grows enormous the longer the sound goes on. I continue sitting and disappear into it. After a while, the sound moves off into the distance, and bird songs re-emerge. Thinking comes up with something else, even now that things are more quiet, and that thinking is seen. A smile is spreading across my face, breath moving in and out. Sitting here, just sitting here, sitting. A spaciousness no longer tainted by thoughts of sound or silence. Awareness. There are no longer any interruptions. The mind no longer interrupts itself. For now, there is only just this. Just this. The sound comes back. The smile widens and lingers and dissolves. So for our last, say 5 minutes or so of practice, let's see if we can just sit and allow our focus to be on sounds, but also our awareness of anything that's pulling us away from just simply sitting and observing. An impulse to be doing something or fixing something or solving a problem, a story that pulls us into past or future, Notice the mind is always busy trying to encourage us to do or fix or achieve or process. Can we be aware of that? And can we just explore what happens if we simply sit and allow those thoughts to pass and just be with the sound, the body, and the breath? So as our practice comes to an end here, remembering that the practice never really ends. So maybe how can we take today's practice into our week ahead? Are there any opportunities that might arise through your daily routine to just sit for a few moments and just be with the breathing and the body and the soundscape around you? And just allow those sounds to be sounds. Perhaps become aware of how sounds trigger us or the significance that they have for our mental or emotional reactions to things. And if we can drop down underneath those reactions to just simply like deconstruct and observe what happens in a place that has no words, but perhaps only kindness or self-compassion. And maybe in those moments, just notice what happens if we let go of a sense of what must be done or should be done or could be done. Just simply enjoy the soundscape of the moment. Maybe washing your hands, noticing the soundscape of the water running from the tap and down the sink. Washing dishes, perhaps noticing the sound of a cloth or whatever you're washing the dishes with, the moving on the surface or the water dripping in the sink. The way that the dishes make little sounds as they move in the water or rest in the drying rack, or perhaps listening to the boiling of a kettle as you're making tea, or listening to the hum of traffic around you, or the railway sounds, or the office sounds, or whatever happens to be in the landscape around you. So for this week, just continuing our practice of being in a soundscape, maybe also noticing what pulls you away, what distracts you from being present and being able to listen. But for now, let's see if we can end the practice and perhaps reconnect with legs and arms and hands and fingers and toes. Ask the body if it needs to move at all after lying or sitting. And when we're ready, maybe opening your eyes and just noticing the lightscape, the shapes, the landscape of the world around us, which was one of our practices a few weeks ago, just taking in the colors and the shapes, noticing how that changes our awareness of the soundscape. And then give yourself a pat on the back and say, well done for doing your practice today. Well done for being here for yourself and for being here for each other and supporting each other in our practice. And if you're watching on the recording, this is a wonderful time to sit down, maybe do some journaling. And for those of us here on Zoom, an opportunity for us to just connect and have a little chat about our practice. So I'll end our recording there.